the Melchizedeks, thus effecting a liaison with the primary core. But failing to accomplish this, they deserted their companions and went over in a body to the service of the planetary receivers. After the death of Adamson, the remainder of the secondary Midwayers became a strange, unorganized, and unattached influence on Urantia. From that time to the days of Makaventa Melchizedek, they led an irregular and unorganized existence. They were partially brought under control by this Melchizedek, but were still productive of much mischief up to the days of Christ Michael. And during his sojourn on earth, they all made final decisions as to their future destiny, the loyal majority then enlisting under the leadership of the primary Midwayers. 7. The rebel Midwayers. The majority of the primary Midwayers went into sin at the time of the Lucifer Rebellion. When the devastation of the planetary rebellion was reckoned up, among other losses it was discovered that of the original 50,000, 40,119 had joined the Caligastia secession. The original number of secondary Midwayers was 1,984, and of these 873 failed to align themselves with the rule of Michael and were duly interned in connection with the planetary adjudication of Urantia on the day of Pentecost. No one can forecast the future of these fallen creatures. Both groups of rebel Midwayers are now held in custody awaiting the final adjudication of the affairs of the system rebellion. But they did many strange things on Earth prior to the inauguration of the present planetary dispensation. These disloyal Midwayers were able to reveal themselves to mortal eyes under certain circumstances, and especially was this true of the associates of Beelzebub, the leader of the apostate secondary Midwayers. But these unique creatures must not be confused with certain of the rebel cherubim and seraphim, who also were on earth up to the time of Christ's death and resurrection. Some of the older writers designated these rebellious Midway creatures as evil spirits and demons, and the apostate seraphim as evil angels. On no world can evil spirits possess any mortal mind subsequent to the life of a paradise bestowal son. But before the days of Christ Michael on Urantia, before the universal coming of the thought adjusters, and the pouring out of the Master's Spirit upon all flesh, these rebel Midwayers were actually able to influence the minds of certain inferior mortals, and somewhat to control their actions. This was accomplished in much the same way as the loyal Midway creatures function when they serve as efficient contact guardians of the human minds of the Urantia Reserve Corps of Destiny, at those times when the adjuster is, in effect, detached from the personality during a season of contact with superhuman intelligences. It is no mere figure of speech when the record states, "And they brought to him all sorts of sick peoples, those who were possessed by devils, and those who were lunatics." Jesus knew and recognized the difference between insanity and demoniacal possession, although these states were greatly confused in the minds of those who lived in his day and generation. Even prior to Pentecost, no rebel spirit could dominate a normal human mind, and since that day, even the weak minds of inferior mortals are free from such possibilities. The supposed casting out of devils since the arrival of the Spirit of Truth has been a matter of confounding a belief in demoniacal possession with hysteria, insanity, and feeble-mindedness. But just because Michael's bestowal has forever liberated all human minds on Urantia from the possibility of demoniacal possession, do not imagine that such was not a reality in former ages. The entire group of rebel Midwayers is at present held prisoner by order of the Most High's Evidentia. No more do they roam this world on mischief bent. Regardless of the presence of the thought adjusters, the pouring out of the Spirit of Truth upon all flesh forever made it impossible for disloyal spirits of any sort or description ever again to invade even the most feeble of human minds. Since the day of Pentecost, there never again can be such a thing as demoniacal possession. 8. The United Midwayers. At the last adjudication of this world, when Michael removed the slumbering survivors of time, the Midway creatures were left behind, left to assist in the spiritual and semi-spiritual work on the planet. They now function as a single corps, embracing both orders and numbering 10,992. The United Midwayers of Urantia are at present governed alternately by the senior member of each order. This regime has obtained since their amalgamation into one group shortly after Pentecost. The members of the older or primary order are generally known by numerals. They are often given names such as 1, 2, 3 the first, 4, 5, 6 the first, and so on. On Urantia, the Adamic Midwayers are designated alphabetically in order to distinguish them from the numerical designation of the primary Midwayers. Both groups are non-material beings as regards nutrition and energy intake, but they partake of many human traits and are able to enjoy and follow your humor as well as your worship. When attached to mortals, they enter into the spirit of human work, rest, and play. But Midwayers do not sleep, neither do they possess powers of procreation. In a certain sense, the secondary group are differentiated along the lines of maleness and femaleness, often being spoken of as he or she. They often work together in such pairs. Midwayers are not men, neither are they angels, but secondary Midwayers are in nature nearer man than angel. They are, in a way, of your races, and are, therefore, very understanding and sympathetic in their contact with human beings. They are invaluable to the seraphim in their work for and with the various races of mankind, and both orders are indispensable to the seraphim who serve as personal guardians to mortals. The United Midwayers of Urantia are organized for service with the planetary seraphim in accordance with innate endowments and acquired skills in the following groups. 1. Midway Messengers. This group bear names. They are a small corps and are of great assistance on an evolutionary world in the service of quick and reliable personal communication. 2. Planetary Sentinels. Midwayers are the guardians, the sentinels of the worlds of space. They perform the important duties of observers for all the numerous phenomena and types of communication which are of import to the supernatural beings of the realm. They patrol the invisible spirit realm of the planet. 3. Contact Personalities. In the contacts made with the mortal beings of the material worlds, such as with the subject through whom these communications were transmitted, the Midway creatures are always employed. They are an essential factor in such liaisons of the spiritual and the material levels. 4. Progress Helpers. These are the more spiritual of the Midway creatures, and they are distributed as assistants to the various orders of seraphim who function in special groups on the planet. Midwayers vary greatly in their abilities to make contact with the seraphim above and with their human cousins below. It is exceedingly difficult, for instance, for the primary Midwayers to make direct contact with material agencies. They are considerably nearer the angelic type of being, and are therefore usually assigned to working with and ministering to the spiritual forces resident on the planet. They act as companions and guides for celestial visitors and student sojourners, whereas the secondary creatures are almost exclusively attached to the ministry of the material beings of the realm. The 1,111 loyal secondary Midwayers are engaged in important missions on Earth. As compared with their primary associates, they are decidedly material. They exist just outside the range of mortal vision, and possess sufficient latitude of adaptation to make, at will, physical contact with what humans call material things. These unique creatures have certain definite powers over the things of time and space, not excepting the beasts of the realm. Many of the more literal phenomena ascribed to angels have been performed by the secondary Midway creatures. When the early teachers of the gospel of Jesus were thrown into prison by the ignorant religious leaders of that day, an actual angel of the Lord by night opened the prison doors and brought them forth. But in the case of Peter's deliverance after the killing of James by Herod's order, it was a secondary Midwayer who performed the work ascribed to an angel. Their chief work today is that of unperceived personal liaison associates of those men and women who constitute the planetary reserve corps of destiny. It was the work of this secondary group, ably seconded by certain of the primary corps, that brought about the coordination